Action Research report was focusing on the productivity of a single student study habits. The study habit that I'd be focusing on is that of completing homework. I studied the weekly pattern of homework assignments turned in by one student. My main question is how I can support the student both at school and at home with additional support from his parents to turn in his homework. As a first-year teacher, I find my biggest struggle and never-ending argument is homework. I chose this area of study because I've tried many strategies with numerous students and still have not seen an increase in student work produced. I chose one particular student because he is a very bright boy and the one student in my class that has turned in the least amount of homework. I have minimal support from home, so it makes this issue even harder. I want to support this student in guiding him into having excellent study habits at home. Currently, I'm using intrinsic rewards to motivate my students to complete assignments. I'll be using 3 different techniques to help me improve my individual students' homework completion. Each will be used for 2 weeks. The first technique will be to use a homework sheet that will be signed by a parent and student. The student will write down assignments and grades for those assignments, and the student will need to have his parents sign the form at the end of each week. The second technique would be to intentionally make homework assignments as appealing as possible. The third and final technique that I will be using involves a homework star chart in the classroom. Students who will turn in all the homework will be given a prize for their efforts at the end of 2 weeks. My question is explicitly, which of these techniques will most increase the number of homework assignments turned in by a particular student in my classroom? My hypothesis is that the changing of the nature of assignments will most likely improve my individual students' motivation to complete assignments outside the class. I realize that I'll probably not have 100% of my particular student's homework, but perhaps one of these systems will work to increase the time he spends learning at home. My method of collecting data was rather simple. I simply counted the number of homework assignments turned in correctly. All this data was paired with my findings from earlier this year. I had 3 strategies to improve homework completion that I used to gather data for 2 weeks at a time. The first strategy was to hand my student a homework chart that he filled out during class and had his parents sign at home. This was mainly to see if parental involvement would help increase the home connection. The second strategy was to change the nature of homework assignments. Instead of traditional assignments, I assigned more creative assignments. The first assignment, for example, was a biography to be put into a class book. The second was a book cover or artwork for a recently discussed story. Lastly, I assigned my individual students to write a poem about anything. The last method was a star chart that used student competition to enhance homework completion. 3 assignments were given during each 3 weeks. Assignment 1 gained about 35% using Strategy 1. My Strategy 2 gained about 87% of homework completion. My Strategy number 3 used about 37% of homework completion. My students made all-around progress with each strategy used. The star chart and the homework chart that required a parent's signature showed some results, but with an average total increase of about 46% between the 2 strategies. This was a 41% increase from the start of my school year. My overall results showed that the more fun and creative assignments seemed to spark more interest in my selected student. There are many ways in which this study will influence my current teaching methods. I have learned that any of the 3 methods, increase in attention to homework results and an increase to homework participation. My question was easily answered. More creative or more fun assignments drew the largest participation. I think that in the future, I will make more of an effort to come up with assignments that seem more appealing to students. The overall action plan was a great way to assess my own teaching strategies and pursue those that are producing more student work. My favorite part of this action plan was that of reflecting on the data that I've been collecting since the first week of school to the weeks collected during my observation. I feel that sometimes I don't reflect or set goals for my students to achieve when it comes to their personal data. So I'm looking forward to sharing this information with my selected student. I have learned that assessing myself and the way I teach can make a strong impact on my students' productivity of work. If I don't put time into it, then they won't either.